So, if you watched my last video, then you know that we talked about how to actually get the most out of your rerolls, and I dubbed that video the Monarch method. Today, we're going to talk about which units should you reroll traits on and which should you avoid. So yeah, let's get started. One thing that you should not avoid though is hitting that like and subscribe button, because we do a ton of Anime Vanguards content. We post daily, and at 50k subscribers, which is halfway through our ultimate goal of reaching 100k subscribers, we're gonna be doing a bunch of giveaways on our Discord in the pinned comment below. So subscribe and join our Discord. So let's start. Units that you should really invest in, and that is number one going to be the Vanguard unit. That is because the Vanguard units, whenever they fall off the meta, will get buffed. Case in point, Diavolo. He was a pretty good unit when he released. He was meta in a lot of game modes. He fall off the meta because he wasn't really designed to last for a long time, and he recently got a buff that basically makes him really good again. So Diavolo Requiem has been buffed. We've realized that as we release more Vanguard units, Diavolo has fallen greatly behind the standard we want to have for Vanguard units. As such, he has received significant stat buffs. And again, it is confirmed to me, I believe in stage or from one of my discussions from the developers, that every Vanguard that falls off will get a stat buff. This is because Vanguard units are supposed to be difficult to get. So every time you get a Vanguard unit, it's going to reward you. You're going to be able to make the most out of that unit. So considering the fact that Vanguard units really aren't that hard to get now because they're always going to be in AFK chamber, you should always try to get these Vanguard units and reroll on them, because they're almost always going to give you the most benefit. So Vanguards are your number one investment. But let's say you don't want to reroll on Vanguards, then you reroll on Monarch reliant units. And the only way to really know if a unit is Monarch reliant, it mainly falls on its cost and its passives. And what I mean by cost is, if a unit is so expensive, that likely means that you need a Monarch on that unit, because you're not going to be able to upgrade all of its placement in a game mode that is fast. So for example, give an example right here. Aizen is one of the most expensive units in the game. If you don't have a Monarch on Aizen, even though he can be used in Infinite, because Infinite has basically infinite gold, you can't really use him in shorter game modes because there is a gold limit. There's a lot of units that are better options than him, because you know he's too long to upgrade. He's like 3 times more expensive than other units. So not having a Monarch on a unit like Aizen is going to be very bad for you, because it will take so much gold to max out all 3 placements of them. So a unit that is very expensive can be, and is most of the time, very Monarch reliant. It also depends on their passives, and again, this is a case-by-case basis. I'll be making a video like this every time there's an update so that you guys can be informed. Units like Yamamoto, for example, is also very Monarch reliant, because his summons are based off the damage that he has. So the lower your damage is, the less HP Yamamoto summons will be, and you want him to have more summons, obviously. So for example, with Monarch, his summons can go up to 60k per summon, and that's actually a ton, right? With 60k per summon, that's really good compared to the 18k without Monarch. You really want to get a Monarch on someone like Yamamoto. Those are basically the 2 things that you really want to invest in: Vanguard units and Monarch reliant units. Okay, I'm not really going to be telling you to invest in a lot of units, since Vanguards only release 4 Vanguards per year. You have a lot of time to grind for a Vanguard. And by the way, the 2500 reroll thing is only there if you get super unlucky. Like let's say for example, you don't get lucky enough and it takes you like 2500 rerolls to get a Monarch on one of these Vanguards, then at least you still got a Monarch on a Vanguard that is never gonna fall off the meta. And again, this pity thing is only there if you don't get lucky earlier and you really just get shafted by the game. Obviously, you could get a Monarch on these units much earlier, like maybe at 1500 rerolls, at 800 rerolls, you're gonna get a Monarch on Gogeta or any of these Vanguards. Then once you get a Monarch on, you know, the Vanguard that you want, you can invest on other units such as Monarch reliant units like Aizen. But if you already have Monarch on Monarch reliant units like Aizen, I would suggest you to save it up for the next Vanguard or for the next top meta unit, because again, it's always a case-by-case basis. But basically what I'm telling people all the time is just invest on Vanguard, since they are the best. But if you have Monarch on Vanguards, invest in Monarch reliant units that are in the meta like Aizen. But if you have Monarch on both of those, then you can either save or spend it on other units. Basically what I'm saying here is, since you don't have infinite rerolls, you always want to make use of the pity, because Imagine you get unlucky and end up spending 5,000 rerolls in multiple different units. Chances of Monarch is actually not guaranteed. Compared to if you spent that 5,000 rerolls on 2 different units, you would have already gotten 2 Monarchs guaranteed because you spent it wisely. I know it can take a while to grind to that pity, but at the very least, it's guaranteed. Right? That's essentially what I'm saying here. So I don't want to explain it too much anymore because a lot of people are going to say that, oh, he's yapping again. But essentially, this, in my opinion, is the best method. Just invest on these Vanguards because they're going to be a much more worthwhile use of your rerolls compared to any other units. And second investment should be Monarch reliant units. One thing that I actually want to say before I end this video, getting Monarch on other units like Gilgamesh, for example, who is a Monarch reliant unit, can be beneficial, but again, he is not a top meta Monarch reliant unit. You know, he's not really a Vanguard level unit. This is one of the reasons why I only really have those 2 investments for you, Vanguard units and the top meta Monarch reliant units such as Aizen. This is because those units will last you a longer time than Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh with Monarch is still pretty good right now in the current meta, but there's a lot of other better options than him nowadays. So if you are gonna invest in, you know, all of your rerolls, you have to invest it in a unit that will last you a long time, which is most of the time top meta units such as Aizen or Yuhaba, or better yet, the Vanguard units. Okay, I will always tell people to just go for the Vanguard unit since it will never fail you and it will almost always just guarantee that those units will be useful. Obviously, you can spend the rerolls on other units that you want to spend it on, but again, if you're a free-to-play player, your rerolls are limited. I know I'm repeating what I'm saying right here, but I'm putting an emphasis on your rerolls are limited. You have to use it wisely, otherwise you're gonna regret it. You're gonna really regret not using your rerolls wisely because, you know, as a free-to-play player, you have to use it wisely. Last thing though, there are other good units that are at the top of the meta that are not really Monarch reliant. Units like Saber is good with Monarch and is still in the meta right now, but that's really mainly because of her passives and not really, you know, because of her damage. People can go for a Monarch on Saber, however, I wouldn't recommend it because she's one of those units that's good without it. Yuhaba is actually really good with Monarch as well, but going for a Monarch on him, I'm not really recommending it that much because he's already good without Monarch, so you're probably better off investing it in units that need it more, which I'm not gonna repeat which unit needs it more. I already explained it in the first like 5 minutes of this video. Anyways, that's pretty much it for today's video. This video took 8 minutes because there's a lot of things to explain, and if you don't like it and, you know, your attention span is just that short, I'm sorry, I guess, okay? But I hope that you guys found something pretty useful from this video. That's it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.